All right, guys, welcome back to the Dads Against the Narrative, the show where we cut through all the noise, challenge the status quo, and talk real talk about life, family, and the world all around us. Today, we are joined by special guest Rod Richards of Senkit, or Forfeit Fatherhood. And I'm here today with a special co host, also, Devin Linder. Devin, period one. Check them all out, guys. Check me out too somewhere online. Anyways, Rod, jump right into it like we always do. I have one question for you. What was the one turning event in your life that made you go, aha, I'm not going to live that way. I'm not going to live the way the man wants me to live. I'm going to create my own world in my own way. What was
Man,
that one?
you know what? There's two of them, right? And they kind of are the same, or at least they kind of come from the same. They're cut from the same cloth. I talk about obviously fatherhood and all that, right? But I talk about what I consider to be my matrix moment, right? Where I was able to kind of like slow time down and could pick the bullets out of the air kind of situation, right? And that happened for me in 2011. I was working with the New York Mets as a strength and conditioning coach. Got to come home for All-Star break, and my wife and I, we hadn't seen each other for a little while, so you consummate the marriage. Uh, long season runs its course. She comes out and visits a couple times. I make it home a couple times here and there. But season ends and it's right around Thanksgiving, so we go visit my family, and she's not feeling well. It's kind of winterish time, so being sick's not a big deal. But she's like, yeah, this is different. So we had been together like 10 years at that time. I'm like, go get the pregnancy test. Let's see. We dodged this bullet before. It's no big deal. Like, go pee on a stick and we'll be good, right? So let's just clear that out. And then she does, and when she comes out of the bathroom, she looks completely different. Like there's a totally different look to her. And she says to me, "You're gonna be a father." And that's where time slowed down. And literally, as the words come, out of cartoons, sometimes they're saying the word and the word is actually coming out of their mouth. It was like that. Like
Right.
I could see the words. And I knew in that moment, like up to that point, I was a 27 or 28, about to be 28. I had worked my whole career, my whole life up to that point to be where I was at. I was a strength conditioning coach for a major league baseball team. It was the top tier. I'm working with some of the best athletes in the world. I get to travel, I make good money. We had just bought a house. I just got a new car. Like everything is in place. And then once I heard that, none of that other stuff mattered. Like none of it mattered. Like chasing somebody's career, or being away from home 6 to 8 months out of the year potentially, or flying people here and there, or missing the birth of my child. Like there was nothing that you could have said or done. And they tried several things to convince me to stay, because I couldn't imagine a life where I at that time was Skype. I got to watch my baby be born via Skype, or here have to be on speakerphone through doctor visits. And like it was nothing about that life that I could have imagined would be good for me. And so that's where I kind of pivoted from chasing a career, which is what we're taught to do, right? We're supposed to go to school, get a good job, take care of your family, work 20 to 40 years, and then retire, right? Like, but in that moment, it was like, I've got to do something where I can be present in the way that I need to be present, and it's not going to be the traditional career trajectory. And so I put in my notice. I negotiated back and forth for several months until they finally were like, okay, it's fine, you can go. And they let me out of my contract without penalizing me. They actually paid out the rest of my contract, which is rare. And they let me go, and I came back home and started figuring out from there.
Dang, bro. When you were saying that, I was just thinking, I've heard that lots of men talk about this, but like real wealth is like time with family. Real
Mhm.
wealth is not money. It's the time that you get always with your kids, with your wife, and right when you said that, yeah, that's very similar to me. I mean, when my wife got pregnant, I felt that, dude, when you're saying like the words were coming out slow, I was like, because I was 38 when she got pregnant, and I was just like, "Fuck, dude, I never wanted kids. What's going on?" And the world slowed down, and then I had to really take a big hard look at the military. I'm like, dude, I don't know if I want to do this military life because like 2 months after he was born, they deployed me down to Texas for the COVID crap, and then they sent me to school from Hawaii back to Texas again because Texas was always like my home base in San Antonio, and I was just like, dude, I don't want this. I don't. I want to be with the little kid. I missed like his first 2 years due to military, and I never realized how important those first 2 years are either until the second baby came along, and I'm retired, and I swindled my way out of that situation, similar to you, Rod, and made the best of it. But that's if that's not a wake up call to every man out there, I don't know what is. And Devin, I know you're about to jump in, so I'll
Yeah.
shoot it your way, man.
I was about to say, man, like when you like going back to when you were saying like everything, like you were able to pick the bullets like in slow motion. That's kind of like I had to like sit there and actually place things in slow motion because I was like immobilized. So I got injured a week before I tore or ruptured my patellar tendon a week before my daughter was actually born. So I'm sitting in the bed like with this big old cast on, and I'm just like, can't move, can't do nothing. My older two children at the time, they were just running circles around me. They were like taking advantage, like, dang, dad's he's immobilized, so we gonna take advantage of this. So I'm just sitting there like just thinking about things. I'm like, man, it would actually feel good to be able to run and catch them. And then it started from that moment, just down spiraling. And I'm like, man, what am I doing with myself? I'm in the military. Like I work almost 12, 14 hours a day away from my children all the time. And then I was like, I don't want to be that type of parent that just comes on like or comes home only for like 2 hours to spend with my children. And then like 30 minutes of those 2 hours is eating, dinner at the table. And then I gotta put them to bed. And I wanna be more in their developmental aspects of life too. So like when you said that, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, yeah, it was, and it was funny, and I know I mentioned earlier it was two parts to it, and it's kind of the same thing. Is I did that in 2011, 2012. My daughter was born in August of 2012, so came back home, started working at a gym, kind of doing the thing, right? Because that's my career. I'm a coach. I'm gonna be continue to be a coach. It started with a company that was relatively new. They had been around for like a year, and I was there for almost 12 years, roughly. Probably longer than that, actually. I was there until 2021. Let's just say that. So from the time I got home till 2021, so like almost 12 years. And you kind of talked about being immobilized. So COVID, right? COVID happens, California, gyms are shut down. By that time, so when I started, it was one company. I mean, say it was one, like we had a trailer that we used to take to the park to train kids. Like, and then we
Right.
eventually got a building that was, about the size of a small house to the point where when I left the company, we had trained over 50,000 athletes. We had 6 facilities across Southern California. So you can imagine like the responsibility from day one where I was like, oh, I'm home, I'm work part-time and I'll be here for the kids to where I left was like get up at 6 in the morning, get the kids ready to school, drop them off, and then I don't see anybody in my family until 9 p.m. or 9:30 p.m. Right. So I had left the career to focus on the family, and then because of the programming, built another one that put me in the same situation.
Yep.
And then COVID happened, gym shut down. And for the first time in my youngest daughter's life, I was home during the week for dinner. And she hit me with one of those, like, why are you here? Like literally, I think those were her exact words is why are you here? Because I had never been there for dinner. And that broke me down. I had to leave the table and go in the room. My wife had to console me. I was hurt. I was hurt because in my mind I had given up everything to be here and create this life for them, but I didn't realize because I was just moving until things slowed down and I was immobilized, and I finally got a chance to see like even though I was intentional about the time that I was spending, it just wasn't enough. Right? It just wasn't a lot. It was an hour to 2 hours, maybe if I was lucky, a day. And some of that was, getting them awake and, grumpy kids in the morning. That ain't the best time. And trying to make them go to sleep, that ain't the best time either. So I was getting like this kind of, I was getting that garbage time. You know what I mean? Fourth quarter, we're about
Yeah.
40 points. You got to put the scrubs in. I was getting the scrub time.
You get the scrub time and you come off as, I think a lot of times in that type of structure, we're always, or at least I know from my experience, it was like always like, oh, here comes dad, or here comes my older two. They call me Big DJ because, but different biological dad. But they'll be like, oh, here comes dad, here comes Big DJ. Let's tighten up. It was never the appearance of, oh, this dad, he's cool. Like, let's hang
Yeah.
out. It was always like strict, upright, like, because you're literally either getting ready to go to work, or you're coming home from work. So in both of those transitional periods, like your mentality is like, let's get this done. Let's get you
Yep.
out the door. Let's get you here. Or I'm coming home. I need to decompress and blah, blah, blah. So it's always like it was never like a relaxed state. They never got to see dad in a relaxed state until when you said you had that moment where it's like you're at dinner and she's like, why are you here? Like,
Yeah.
it was one of those like aha moments, like, dang, bro, like I've really only been viewed as like, get up, get ready for school, come home. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I don't see you that much when you're at home. So yeah,
Right.
I understand that, bro. That's a real, like, it was a hard pill for me to swallow as well when I started building my new lifestyle around that.
Yeah, yeah, and that's where I am now. Is nothing. I don't do anything that I don't first consider my family and how it's going to affect them, right? And my ability to show up the way that I want to show up. Now, obviously, I know there's times where I'm going to have to miss something or I'm going to have to do something, but it's always family first. I know we say that all the time, right? And that's like a cool thing to say for everybody, but then we'll say it and then we'll let other things kind of slip in, right? Like at this point now, it's for me. I'm literally like, even with this, right? I was like, oh, wait, let me see what I got going on because you know what I mean? Like, let me make sure because that's why I kept asking you about the 12:30 time because I'm like, I got to pick the kids up today. Today's my day. Let me make sure, you know, everything lines up with that, and it's because I want it to, right? Not like I feel guilty or whatever. Like I find the most joy and pleasure in being their father and being her husband and like and so I'm trying to find ways to make sure I do that effectively at all times.
You know what I was thinking, Rod, is well, both of you, and Devin and you both are speaking, the role of the father in the Matrix and how they have tricked us. I mean, Devin, I'm not sure if we talked about this on the last show with you, but it was like it was designed when they cut off the father, right? They took the father, they got rid of God first. Then they're like, dad's nothing. Then TV shows started making dads look like a bunch of lazy, fat drunks that aren't smart. Then they added in feminism and say, hey, the feminist movement, you guys all need to break up the entire family and divide and conquer. And I look at that, I'm like, dude, as you guys are saying that, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly it. The Matrix is so hard to get out of. Even when you get out of the Matrix, it pulls your ass right back in.
Yeah.
And you don't even realize it because it's a grinding system where it's like, I have to provide for my family. And as men and as good fathers and great husbands, that's what we think in our heads. We have to fucking provide one way or
Mm-hmm.
another. And so, how do we get the time with our kids when we also have to build the relationship with our wives and keep it going strong for them so they can see what a good role model is? So, I just want to ask you one thing here on this, Rod. What did your wife think when you went right back to work into the Matrix when you're like, dude, I'm leaving the Matrix, babe, but I'm gonna go
Oh
right back
man.
into it. What did she think?
So what's funny is it didn't start off like that right away, right? Like it wasn't like I left and then right away I was into
Yeah.
something else. I had a little bit of, like I said, they paid out the rest of my contract. So I had a little bit of downtime where I didn't have to rush. I got to choose kind of the place that I wanted to work at. Started off working part-time, so I was only working a couple hours, and then you do a decent job and people are like, oh, hey, you want to do this or can you do this for us? And then before I knew it, stuff started stacking up. My titles start changing. And then we got to a point where I was full blown, like I was the director. And that caused a lot of strain. To be honest, like I think, and I say this all the time, and it's hard to say because there's so many people who suffered through COVID. I think one of the things for me for COVID and the silver lining was like it gave me space to reevaluate my life, and it's probably the best thing that happened to me. I lost some family members during that time, but even with that, I found myself. I gained my family back. I became the husband that I said I was going to be when I took those vows. I became the father that I wanted to be when I found out I was going to be. Like there's so much that I gained from that. But it definitely, prior to that, we had some long talks and some conversations, and both of us come from broken homes, and so we didn't want to do that for our kids. But man, we were struggling. uh, we we were struggling because my thought process was like you just said, I got to go provide, and she works, she does a great job, but that doesn't matter to me, right? Like it's still like I got to go do my part, right? You make great money, but if I don't do my job and we had to live off of, we're gonna struggle. So like I'm out working hard to make ends meet kind of thing, and that's just my mentality and my mindset, and I couldn't get away from that. So that we butted heads on it. It was like, yo, and then it got to the point where it's like I had took so much ownership of the job I was at. I'm like, it was my company. Like I'm building this, and like you're telling me not to build this and this thing that I'm really good at, and you know what I mean? It became an issue for sure, for sure.
What would you recommend to the men out there, these young fathers that are just in the same situation as you were, and they're trying to break away from this matrix, and they're saying, "I'm listening to you guys, but how do I get it out of there right now, Rod? How do I get out of there, Jack, Devin? What do I do? I have to provide. I have to be in the matrix to make the money to live outside of the matrix." And this is a tough question. It's a loaded question. So,
Yeah, there's a lot to that.
yeah,
Um, you want me to go first?
I mean, I can go
yeah.
ahead.
Go on, Devin.
Go
Let's
for
hear
it.
it. I know you got a good one here.
Yeah, so when it comes to like these, a lot of times us as fathers, we definitely, like you said, it's programmed for us to go and provide, right? But we have to like double down on like being a provider. Are we like a full-time provider, or are we only a provider in one aspect? And when I think of like being a provider now that I have been out of this, situation in this matrix, is I'm providing not just financially, but I'm also providing emotional support. I'm also providing like mental stability for my children. Like I'm helping them avoid trauma pathways that I've been across. Like I'm providing a way much more in than a normal provider or the matrix idea of a provider, because it's only one way. And when you're looking to step out of this, you have to change your perspective first. And then secondly is you have to start understanding way more about yourself, because if you don't know yourself, you're not going to be able to find your way out, because the only way out is through you, right? And so that's my take on it.
You know
Yeah,
what, Devin? I just want to throw in something really quick that you said last week when we were talking. You said, and I thought this was really great. I had to think about it a lot because no one said this before. One way that you start breaking out of the system that you said last week was just changing your diet, going to a clean diet, the healthy foods, the organic
Mhm.
foods, and all of a
Yep.
sudden it just like triggered in your head, like, fuck, dude, I'm not getting poisoned. And when you're not poisoning your body, all of a sudden you're not poisoning your mind as much. And
mhm.
that's like another way that I was thinking as you're talking. I'm like, dude, that's another way of inching in instead of trying to take a jump to inch in, to take it millimeter by millimeter and just see
Mhm.
the long term goal compared to the short term gain. You know,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be a little bit more, because I was being a little bit more broader when I say like change your perspective on like how you provide and like learning more about yourself. That is like that aspect of changing your perspective on how you view food. If you're eating food to like just enjoy, like that's what the Matrix wants you to do, is enjoy dopamine, chase that high off that food, and not really actually search for the nutrient dense whole foods that you're supposed to eat that can help you connect with yourself. So, yeah, I want to hear what
yeah.
Rod's take.
Yeah, no, I fully agree that there's a perspective change that has to happen. There's a mindset shift that has to happen. And in all honesty, and just talking to you guys just now, I said something that I probably have never said before, is that I found myself in the midst of all of this, right? Which I think leans into what you're saying, is like you have to know a little bit more about who you are and what you actually want. I think a lot of us are kind of following a path, or we're just like, this is the way that we do things, and we just fit into it because that's what we were told we had to do. But most of the time we're unhappy. and we've been told we're just sacrificing our happiness for someone else, and it's okay to be unhappy, it's okay to struggle, and these things aren't completely wrong, right? Like, struggle produces strength, and like there's lessons to be learned through losses and all that, right? But we become sacrificial lambs, and we give up on the things that we actually want. So I think finding yourself is super important. I think the idea that men and fathers are multidimensional, multifaceted, multi-layered. We are not just providers and protectors. And even in those two titles, you mentioned several types of provision, right? Providing stability, providing financially, providing emotionally, providing spiritually as a spiritual leader of the house. Like, there's so many things that go into that, and we get so fixated on the financial piece of it because that's what is constantly preached to us, right? It's like, you got to go make money, you got to go make money, you got to go make money. Nobody talks about all the other things that you have to do as the leader of a house. Protection, right, is one of the other things I hear guys talk about, is I got to be able to protect my family. But provision, in a lot of ways, when it's only focused on finance, takes you away from protection. Because if my job is to provide, and that means I got to be outside of the house for 8 to 10 to 16 hours a day, nobody's protecting my family while I'm gone, right? I could put up a fence, sure, but like that ain't gonna do much. If something happens, they got to call me at work, and I can't even answer because technically I'm not supposed to be on my phone. So you know what I mean? Like, we
Yep.
do a lot of contradictory things, and a lot of it is because we don't know who we fully are and what we fully want. And there's a lot of work to be done around that. And a lot of us, because we lack emotional intelligence, which again is another thing,
Yep.
we don't allow ourselves to get into that, because, again, society tells us that's soft, or whatever they say, right? And so I think for a young guy, young father who wants to break free of the matrix, I think you have to start asking yourself some very important questions, starting with who am I, and what do I want, right? You have to have kind of an identity statement, and answer that question is, who am I? Because once you know who you are, then you can determine the what and the how. Um, and that makes life a little bit easier. Doesn't make it easy. Don't get me wrong. I don't want you to think that, like, I'm saying this and all right, I'm gonna figure out who I am, and then tomorrow, no, hell no. It's not gonna be like that at all. It's still gonna be struggle and strife, but like, at least you can. I think at the end of the day, this is what I tell my daughters, because they both play sports, and I'm like, we don't control the results of a game. We don't control the results of an at bat. We don't control the results of a shot, right? We can work on the process and work the hell out of the process, and we can work hard, right? But hard work doesn't guarantee success. Hard work guarantees that at the end of it, whether you succeed or fail, you can walk away saying, I did the best that I could. And I think that's something for all of us to think about. Is like, yes, you are going to do some things that are hard, but it doesn't mean it's going to work out the way you want it to. And that's okay, right? It just is what it is. But you can feel better about what you've done. And you know what I mean? Like, when you say walk away from the matrix, and ideally you want to still be able to provide the way that you would provide if you were inside of the matrix, right? Or you still would want to
Right.
do all of the things that, society and the matrix have told you should be able to do. But some of that's not going to be true. Like, some of it's just not going to happen. Like, it just is what it is. And it probably wasn't going to happen if you stayed in, like, everybody can't be, everybody can't make $100,000, $200,000 a year. This is not the way it works. So, breaking free doesn't mean that you automatically going to get that either. Right. It's just, you have to figure out what it is that you want, what it is you're comfortable with, strive and thrive at the same time.
Bro,
Yeah.
Mm.
there's a few things that, fuck, that was deep. That was good. That was,
That was profound.
the self-reflection part. I think we've talked about this on every single show, me and Nate. And last week we talked about that, me, you, and Jimmy Devin. And the self-reflection part in men is just so difficult. It seems like it's something that men just don't look in the mirror and say, who the fuck am I? What do I want? Or, like at night, I pray with my kids. And one of the major things I always give thanks for and gratitude for, and I'll say, God, thank you for showing me my purpose and direction in life, because not everyone gets to have this.
Right.
And I know that. So I'm always grateful for this life that I live. I understand it's unconventional, but that's something that you have to look at as a man and say, do I want an unconventional life? Do I want a conventional life? Well, there's a balance. People will say, oh, well, Jack loves Mexico. It's the best. It's paradise. I gave up a lot to be in Mexico. There's things that are not in Mexico that are in the States, like museums and all that. I'd have to go to a big city like Mexico City, which I would never live in. And yeah, we have that there. Down the street, I have Costco about an hour away. I wouldn't live in that big cities, like I said. So it's like I give up all those luxuries of the convenience of life. So there's a point where men and fathers, we have to ask what conveniences are the most important, and
Mhm.
prioritize what is important in your life. And I do agree with you. An identity statement really helps you find that, like, prioritizing your life, your really true life of like, hey, what the fuck's this life about? Why am I here? Was I put here? Is my purpose on life to go grind at LA Fitness, 12 hours a day, getting fucking 20 clients for LA Fitness to get rich and me not to?
Right.
I love like Alex Hermosi. You hear him talk about that. He was a trainer at, I think it was LA Fitness or something like that, or
Mhm.
Planet Fitness. And then he just started grinding. He's like, dude, this is bullshit. I'm making them rich and I'm getting all the clients. And then he's just like, one day he's just like, I'm going to start my own gym. And then he did.
Mhm.
And so sometimes it's that reflection and effort that you have to put in, and knowing that, again, the effort's going to pay off in the long run, but you can't give up on yourself. And I see too many fathers out there that give up on themselves. They give up on their own parenting, they give up on their wives, they give up on their own health.
Yep.
And that's the saddest part, is like when I see that, I'm like, dude, I just want to grab them and be like, dude, wake the fuck up.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a hard pill to swallow, but I'm with you, man. That mind shift and finding yourself is, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
One thing that you pointed out too, also, Rod, and I think you've also pointed it out too, Jack, like along with the identity statement is like the reflection. And the reflection, it requires for you to dig into some emotions that you probably have been pushing down for the longest. A lot of times as men, I like to call us emotionally lazy. Like we see the emotions, we are aware of the emotions we have, but we're just lazy with like exploring those and actually digging into them. And it's
Mhm.
like, in order to understand who I am, I have to understand that I'm also like part of who I am is a human being. Like I'm living this human experience, right? And as human beings, we are wired to have emotions, like good or bad, whether we look at them as positive or negative. Anger is a negative emotion, sadness is, but we also need to understand what makes us angry, because you can use anger to drive you to become more of who you are. You can use your sadness to drive you to become more of who you are, as long as you're able to feel through those emotions. Now, I'm not saying men should be like controlled by their emotions and let emotions control them. Like, no. But at the end of the day, if I can understand my emotions better, I can have more autonomy of how I live my life. And that's the biggest thing when it comes to that self-reflection and breaking out of that matrix, is that we were always told to man up and be strong and your emotions don't matter. Well, how am I supposed to man up and if I don't understand which emotions to pick? It's like I train martial arts or Muay Thai, and if I get punched in the face really hard and I just get mad and let my anger take over, then like I get beat up. Or if I just get mad and just try to bury it down inside, then I'm not able to move effectively. But if I use my anger, I'm like, yeah, that kind of pissed me off. And I start getting real tactical, I might end up like doing a lot better. But
Yeah.
it's using those emotional like emotions that you have as pathways to get to who you want to be, instead of like letting these emotions control you or pushing and burying these emotions down inside. So as a man, part of that reflection and breaking out of that systematic way of thinking that we're men and supposed to man up is understanding those emotions.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna ask and this is not me pushing back. I'm just asking because I think this it kind of going deeper into this is good for the conversation.
Yeah.
Um, we talk about emotions and you say emotionally lazy. And I say I agree with you, but I also
Yeah.
think that men lack the emotional intelligence in the sense that
Mm.
we are only taught that there are or allowed to believe that there are only a couple emotions. You're happy, you're sad. For men, if you're sad, that makes you angry, so you get that as a bonus. And that's it. Like you're either happy or you're mad, and that's really all we got, right? My wife is a therapist, and so a couple years ago, she exposed me to the emotions wheel, right? And it's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
hundreds
yeah.
of emotions on there, right? I think I think what happens is we are emotionally lazy because we can't identify what that emotion is, right? Like when
Ooh,
something will happen to us and it makes us feel, and it's like it feels some kind of way or feel you feel a way, but we can't
yeah.
identify what that feeling is, and so it made me scared, so I'm mad. Or we just tie it back to the one emotion or two emotions that we actually know. Um,
That's
and I and I tell guys like because I play football, coach football, and I like to like kind of use sports analogies when we're talking to guys because for whatever reason we love ESPN, we love sports, and we can make those
yeah.
connections. So I tell guys when you think about emotions, you think about it as an offense, right? As an offense, I have running plays and I have passing plays. But inside of running plays and passing plays, and I got special teams, I guess we can use that as offense too, technically, right? I got running plays, passing plays, special teams plays. But inside of running plays, I have inside run, I have outside run, I have tosses, I have
Mm,
sweeps, I have draws. I have like,
mhm.
yeah, I have a ton of different ones. I have short yardage plays. I have screen passes. I have long balls. I have, I mean, I have all these different parts. We understand that when it comes to that and the necessity to have all of those different parts. But when it comes to our emotions, it's like, it's a run, it's a pass, kick the field goal. That's it. Like the run didn't work. Throw the pass. Pass didn't work. All right, kick the field goal. Like punt team. Like we only allow ourselves to have a few of these things instead of giving ourselves the tools and the resources that are in our emotions that can help us. Like you said, like if I get punched in the face and I just get mad about it, I'm getting punched in the face again. Right.
Right,
But if I can get mad about getting punched in the face and now use that to help me lock in my focus, maybe I can dodge the next punch because I know
right,
it's coming and I don't want it to happen again. So I can be a little bit more hypersensitive to, okay, last time I got punched in the face, I could tell right before he let that punch go, his shoulder drop. Like, you know what I mean? Now I can kind of be a little bit better about at it. But I think we have gotten so locked into we got our primary colors, our primary emotions. And that's
yeah.
all we got.
For real.
No, that's
Well,
that's actually that's a I'm not gonna lie, that's a whole different perspective. And like you open me up to that perspective, like, bro, like there's more emotions than just happy, sad, and angry. Like, of course I was already thinking that, but like when you opened it up like that, like with the ESPN or the sports analogy, the football analogy, that makes sense, man. Sometimes we're like in between like happy and like just okay. Like
Yeah.
we have these other emotions other than just those main three that people say we experience. And that, yeah, dang, bro, I ain't gonna lie, you dropped a couple bombs on me on there. I
right,
like that.
right. Rod, my wife was a therapist back in the day. Also, when the baby was born, that my first one, Dustin, and she goes, you need to learn emotional intelligence and emotional literacy. And I said, what the fuck is that? And the military sent me to school for like all kinds of weird shit, right? But like, I go, what the fuck's emotional literacy? She's like, that's the way you describe your emotions, idiot. That's the emotional literacy gives you the verbs, the way to pronounce what you're feeling. And we need to make sure our kids, our boys, know how to say exactly what they're feeling. And
Mhm.
I sat back. I'll never forget that day. I'm like, fuck, no one ever taught me that shit. Because I was exactly what you said. I'm primary colors. I don't even know the primary colors. Matter of fact, I fuck those up all the time. It's down to black, white, yellow, and red. It's like, dude, I have four colors. I don't even hit all the primaries. She's just like, dude, you got so much to learn. I'm like, yeah, I never heard of emotional wheel until then. Um,
Mhm.
like all of that emotional intelligence. I'm like, what the hell's that? I didn't even know what that was. She's like, yeah, she just broke it all down. But that emotional literacy was the one that really got me because I just never had someone who's just like, explain your emotions, bad and good. There you go, man. I got two of them right there. One's bad, one's good. And then I lack the emotion of like empathy, sympathy, compassion when I forget all of them and just go to bad and good because you know yeah, I can empathize, and I just didn't know what the hell that was, or the difference of empathy and sympathy, and until my wife sat there and she's like, dude, you're an idiot. You're not empathizing, you're sympathizing. What the fuck? You're throwing some words at me that I just don't synthesizing. What the shit? Like,
Yeah.
dude, it was, and then you have to remember, I'm like 40 years old when she's hitting me with this stuff. So I agree. When young men, you're out there listening to this, that's such a huge part. If we're able to get to emotional literacy, that's profound, and we're actually able to pronounce what we're feeling. Um, it's going to take you much further in life. I mean, you hear Jordan Peterson say stuff all the time where it's like, teach your kid the proper way to communicate, and then he's going to run every single room. He's going to run laps around every single person because he communicates properly and he has the
Mhm.
vocab to do so. And so that's something that, you're right, man. When you said that, that was just a bomb right there, because I think a lot of people don't think about our emotions, but how do we do that? And I would say one way is right here. Us men talking to each other and just
Mhm.
throwing ideas. I mean, this whole show is nothing about this is like programmed. It's just one question and then we just rip. And it's like we get to a point like this where it's like, wow, dude, I'm just learning so much from both of you. And even if I learned it once before, it takes what, like they say, 4, 5, 6 times before you even grasp the concept.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm big on that. And how are you teaching your kids this now? But you have two daughters. And Devin,
Yeah.
how many boys do you have? Because I
I
feel
have
like
three.
women pick this up easier, and boys are just like trains, man. My boys are like train wrecks right now. The 5-year-old just goes straight at it. The 17-month-old thinks he's 5, so he just runs. He ran right into a truck the other day, and then got off the ground. I'm like, what the fuck was that? Truck was right in your way. You're looking at it, and then he just got up and kept running. I'm like, dude, how do you feel right now, son? Slow down.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. Slow down. I guess for the young boys, I feel like girls do much better at that.
I would say I have two. I have a 13 and 11-year-old, and I wouldn't automatically say that they get it sooner. I think space is created for them to have emotions.
Mm.
It's true.
I think when they have, and words are used to define their emotions, right? When a little boy like your son, for example, if he runs into that truck yesterday and he gets up crying, maybe not now, but a younger Jack would have told him, "Hey, dust it off, put some dirt on it. You're okay, right?" You wouldn't even ask him, "Is anything hurt?" If he's not bleeding, no harm, no foul, right? No, forget about the confusion that's going on in your head about why that truck automatically appeared out of nowhere for you as a kid. None of that, right? We don't get any of that, right? If it's a young girl, we pick her up, we kiss her, we make her feel good, we comfort her, we talk to her about the reasons why she needs to be careful. We explain that sometimes things don't go your way, and that truck, oh man, that truck was in, like, I mean, we do all these things to provide for them an environment where they feel nurtured, cared for, and loved. Even as men who don't have connections to our emotions, we find those connections when it comes to our daughters,
Mm.
right? Like it naturally happens. We won't
Mm.
reserve them for ourselves. We won't give them to our sons. But any guy, well, most, I can't say any, most guys who have sons and daughters will tell you that it's a very different experience as a girl dad and a boy dad,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Almost to the point where like they're two totally different fathers with their sons versus their daughters. And that just shows that we have the capacity to do it. We just don't lock into it. Like we don't make the connection to it. And I think we because we are told as men, we want to be chivalrous and we want to take care of the women that are in our care. We always are looking for an opportunity to open the door or help an old lady across the street, right? Like we constantly perpetuate a environment of nurturing for women, and it starts very young. And so that's why younger girls have that understanding of an emotion because they're allowed to have them.
Mm. That's I like your explanation behind that because I never really thought about it like that because I was a girl dad first. So like well I would say when I've had my first daughter, like it was just natural. It was innate to like give her that space. Or even with my oldest daughter now, like it's still natural to give her that space. And with my boys, I have to make sure now that I give them that space to also feel as well. And I think it also starts with your boys too. Like a lot of times we're, taught to be a little bit harder on our boys. Well, obviously, of course, you want your child or your son to grow up to be a man of like a man that's a provider and a protector and all these things, right? But like, how can he be the best version of that if he can't even feel anything about himself, right?
Mhm.
And so before the world, and I think I said this in one of my videos, like I want to make sure he's like he can feel before the world tries to make him feel numb,
Mhm.
right? Before he steps out in that world and they're like, oh yeah, you're a man, dust it off. Like, nah, like he can be able to understand himself. That way he can take control and take autonomy of who he is internally. And so
Mhm.
that starts off with like them being able to see affection from their father. Like when my sons wake up, as soon as they wake up, I'm like smiling in their face. I give them a hug, kiss them on their forehead, tell them I love them, stuff like that. And they're like happy to wake up. They wake up and like, where's dad at? Like, of course, they're like, mom's gonna give me the love and stuff like that. But for them to be expecting the love to come from dad is a whole different ball game because now they're open with connecting with other like masculine energy and stuff like that. And I think that's a strong thing when they step out in the world to connect with other men as they become men, that they are like protected, they're secure in their emotions, they're secure in who they are internally in their identity. And that's a
Mhm.
big thing for little boys to experience is like affection with their fathers. Now, also at the same time, like, yeah, bro, like you gotta be a warrior too. So
Mhm.
it's gonna be in certain spaces where it's like, hey, cut that out. We're doing this. Like, hey, tighten up, right? Because you have little sisters and you have women to protect as well. So it's
Mhm.
like we have to find that edge for them to be balanced within. And I think I like that a lot that you described how like the pathways that lead the boys to being in that position of where they thinking like they have to be emotionally numb. Well, from my context, emotionally
Mhm.
um to things like that. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
Devin, as you're speaking, it's making me think of when kids get hurt, they run to mom. She's the one
yep,
who gives the love. She's the one, and you're like saying exactly what I'm about to say, but they never run to dad. Why?
never.
And then I was thinking about that with my first son. He would never run to me, especially like I told you, the first 2 years, the military had me all over the place, and we just didn't have that connection. The new baby, I went and did a little DMT, as I mentioned before, to Pescawite here in Mexico, and I went in with the purpose of being more love centered, being more grounded, and being a guy who can love their kids more and stop being so aggressive or attacking the kids and letting them slow down, hear them out, first of all. Because I feel like before I wasn't doing that. I was just like attack, 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 right? It's like a fucking hammer smashing a nail. And now with my second son, I slowed down. I put him to sleep more. I put him to naps more. And the other day, it was great. And I could see it in my wife's eyes that she was a little bit sad on it too. Is he got hurt. He fell, boom, smashed his mouth. And he doesn't cry hard, right? But he looked right for dad. And he came right to me. I'll tell you what, it was the greatest feeling I think I've had, because it's like he still goes to mom more, but I got that one victory where it's like, I'm on the right path. Thank you, God.
Mhm.
But right away, see, my mind goes right to like
Thank you.
gratitude. I'm like, thank you, God. Thank you for allowing me to learn my emotions, allowing me to have a wife that also stays on my ass and can be annoying sometimes, but she's leading me in the right direction. And I
Yep.
know that. So I also listen to my wife quite a bit. We have a lot of after action reviews at the end of the night where we're like, hey, how did they go? How do you think you handled that situation, Jack?
Mhm.
I'm like, all right, you're right. I don't want to hear this. It makes me pissed off that you're telling me how shitty I just handled that situation. But afterwards, I'll be like, thank you for telling me that because now I could become a better man, a better husband, a better father to my kids. And so a lot of it, I just think like, guys, when you do it and you do practice and you put in the effort, man, the gratitude that comes back is so tenfold, man. It's unbelievable because you're just going to have this connection with your kids based on love. It's a love
Mhm.
connection, not, um, dominant dad's the dominant guy coming in as a hammer again. I don't want that feeling. I didn't like that feeling. It doesn't sit right in my chest, even.
Right.
It just wasn't. the way I wanted to feel regulated, or them to be regulated in life, you know?
Yeah. Kind of two things that I got from what you're just saying and kind of the whole conversation is one, going to the hammer. Um, Hammer's a solid tool, right? It's a necessary tool, but when you're a hammer, everything's a nail, right? Which is not a problem when all you got is nails, but when you got a screw, it doesn't work the same way, right? And so you need to have some finesse. You need to have other tools in your toolbox, and that's something for kind of just to remember as we're going forward. But you mentioned gratitude and grace, kind of being one of those things. I think that the toughen up, be a man, the numbing of emotions, it comes. I think it comes from a good place, but it's misguided and mistaught, right? Like, yes, there are situations where, hey, we don't have time for you to be crying about this. Like, I need you to, you need to get it together because we need to get this done. But the lack of explanation for, or the lack of context around, is what has gotten us to where we are right now, right? And I think as a man, you need to hear or learn that from a man, right?
Yeah.
I think there was a period of time in my life where my father was gone. My mom hadn't met my stepfather yet, so just me and her. And she told me this, and I don't know why you would tell a 5, 6, 7 year old you're the man of the house now. But that was the words, the verbs that were used, or the verbiage that was used. And so for me, toughen up, be a man. Like, I coming from her, being a man meant that you were tough and you were strong, you didn't cry and you didn't show emotions, or you weren't controlled by your emotions. And I think a lot of times that message is passed along, and showing emotions has been mixed up with being controlled by emotions,
That
right?
part.
And I don't think the two are the same at all, right? Like, I can show my emotion, I'm controlled by it, but I definitely want you to know that I'm feeling a certain way, and this is why I feel that way, and this is why this action is being taken. But I'm not controlled by it. Actually, matter of fact, I'm controlling the emotion by allowing you to understand that this is how I'm feeling, this is what's going on for me, and this is the action that we're going to take going forward. But I don't think young boys get that. We don't give them, like I said, we create space for emotion for young girls. We don't give them space to explain, hey, yeah, I get it, man. You scraped up your knee. It hurts like a mup. I get it. I've been there. Look at my knees. My knees are scraped up too. But this is what I realized, man. Hey, if you really want to play this game, you're gonna have to get back up, dust it off, and get back out there. Like, you can't sit on the sideline and get what you want from the game if you're gonna nurse this injury that long, right? Like, you can hold on to it, cry, get it out, do whatever you got to do, but we got to get back out there. We don't give them that. It's just, hey, stop crying. And even worse, it was like, stop crying before I give you something to cry about. Like, what I mean? We put the 2 on the 10 and make it even worse. And it's hard to break free of that, especially if that's what you're told when you're young. And Jack, as you're talking about your son and kind of the first 2 years and not realizing how important that was during that time. The first 5 years for any child are formative years, right? We're learning how we interact with the world. We learn through seeing adults interact with each other, adults interact with kids. Like, we're learning so much that we don't know how to express. That one time somebody says, toughen up and stop crying, that could change our whole life forever. Not only our lives, but the lives of our kids. And we just continue to perpetuate those things because we don't go out and seek understanding. We don't go out and try to solve for X. We just know that X is there and it's causing problems. But so I'm gonna act like X doesn't exist, and I'm gonna keep moving on with the rest of the equation. And that ends up being a problem in the long term.
Definitely too many men kicking the can down the road, man. And
Yeah.
that they don't wake up. And I think you're right. Man, I know you're right that there's kids that we need to slow down and let them feel their emotions. That's what my wife always says. My wife will yell at me all the fucking time, man, because it's still like I want to get in there and be like, come on,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a splinter. That's nothing. That's not a cut.
Right.
There's the blood, right? That's not a cut. That's nothing. And she'll be like, dude, Jack, take a breath, slow down, let him feel his emotions. Just because you don't want to feel yours, let him feel his. And I'm like, oh. And when she says that, it irks the shit out of me, but it's also the truth. And the truth hurts. And a lot of times without self-reflection, you can't see that. You can't see when you're getting told the truth because you're so far into your own bullshit that
Mm-hmm.
there's no returning sometimes. So that mirror is very important for us as men, as fathers, as husbands, you know.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I get that. Look, I come to that realization a couple of times myself as well, is just making sure that like I kind of look at my sons as like little versions of me and the things that I've been told, like, as a child, yeah, put some dust on it, wipe it off. I'm like, where did that put me, before I started having children? I'm like, man, put me in too many good places, right? Let me do something different. And
Hmm.
like my wife would give me that look too if I start getting like you said, like you start going aggressive, becoming more of the hammer instead of getting in your tool bag and finding something different for this situation. My wife would look at, she'll just give me the look like, hey, chill. Like he just started, like he just got here like 3 years ago. Just
Yeah.
got here. Everything's new to him. He just figured out how to use these in his legs. Like, don't get on him too hard if this already is probably overstimulating. Like, why do I have these things and why do I feel that? Like, all of that, you have to give them that space and be patient.
Hmm.
And that was so enlightening to me because I'm like, dang, how many times have I probably got popped when I was a kid because I knocked something over and I'm just now figuring out how to use my hands and my legs, but I knocked it over and I feel embarrassed by it. But instead of being able to feel embarrassed, I get popped upside the head because I knocked it over. Right. And that was like one of the biggest things transitioning into mine. You have to stop yourself from like passing on that generational, I like to call it generational trauma. Like you have to stop passing that shit on to your children. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think it's something that we do kind of unconsciously, like you parent the way you were parented,
Yeah.
unless you know another way or unless you created space. And I think that's kind of also the tough part is like when life is so chaotic as somebody who is providing and doing all the things, right? When something sidetracks you, like a kid knocks a lamp off the table, like, yo, I'm barely holding on myself, and you just broke this lamp. Like, my first reaction is frustration, right? But
Yep.
but I think what it could be masked as is one is fear, because one of these times you're gonna do something that's gonna hurt you, and I'm not gonna be able to save you. So let me
Yep.
teach you how not to make me afraid or how not to make me upset, because that's what we got to focus on. Because if I get mad, dad gonna fly off the handle. And
Right.
so when you talked about kind of putting your emotions on them and allowing them, instead allowing them to feel their emotions, I think that happens a lot. I think for us, in order for us as the leaders of this generation and the next, to provide for them a better opportunity, I think again we talked about self-reflection. I think we have to create the space in ourselves to be able to do what you just said, is like actually think about, before I do this, when that happened to me, how did that make me feel? What did that do for me? What
Yep.
position? Because a lot of times we don't have that space. We got too many things going on in our head, right? There's too many things
Yep.
going on. I don't have the space or time to think about how you're going to react to how I'm acting. Not right now, you know. But if we want to be effective leaders, we have to be able to respond instead of react, right?
Yep.
Like we have to have the ability to respond. And these are teaching moments. You knock the lamp off the table. Like, God damn it, I just bought that lamp and it was the last one. And your mom got the living room matching, and that means I got to buy two lamps now because that lamp is not going to match another lamp. And so now I'm spending money that I just went out to work hard to get. Like, I got all this stuff going on in my head. And the first thing I tell you is, stop playing in my living room, right? And I flip out, right?
Right.
But that's because I've got so much going on. For you, you're just a kid. Like you said, I just learned how to use my hands and legs. Yeah, I barely got control over these things. Like, come on, man.
Right.
You're expecting me to act like an adult when I'm 6, and I can't. And so that requires, if you're my leader, for you to have a better understanding of me. And in order for you to have a better understanding of me, you got to better understand yourself, because, like you said, I'm just a smaller version of you, right? When you were 6, you knocked over a lamp or something. You may not have got caught, But you knocked it over. You said somebody else did it, but like, I'm the only one in the house, so I'm stuck with it. But I think all of this is a lot of work for us to do, which is hard to fathom with the amount of work that we already do. And I think that forces men to push away from the table. And like you said, Jack, just kick the can down the road. Like, hey, look, I know some stuff is wrong with me, but I'm not gonna be the one to fix it. Somebody else got, somebody else's
Right.
problem, and let them
Yeah.
fix it. And that's not good leadership.
No, it's not. And Rod, I just want to say before we close this out, man, thank you for being here. You've been dropping some bombs of knowledge on all the fathers out there. You could tell that you're a seasoned vet in this game, man. Like I said, you were one of the first fatherhood pages I've ever even followed. Father followed.
It's all works. It all works.
It's all words. And so I just want to say one last thing for the guys out there, for the men. You know, a trick that always helps is slow down. When your kid does something, take 2 breaths, just 2 breaths. That's it. 2 deep breaths. It's going to take your emotional regulation down. Your nervous system's going to feel a little bit better, and you're going to be able to think a little bit clearer to see the situation for what it really is. Is your kid
Mm-hmm.
really being bad? Is your kid intentionally doing that? Most likely not. Your kid's just trying to figure out his own boundaries or her own body, and just leave it at it as it is sometimes. Or if you handle the situation wrong, have the self-reflection time where you say, you know what, I fucked up. I need to go apologize to my child. Get down on a knee, get to their height and say, hey man, I'm sorry. Dad messed up this time. Dad's really sorry. I've done that so many times. And afterwards, I feel as a better man, as a better father, as a better leader for my family. So I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to pass over to Devin. Rod, hit us with the final word. And we're out of here, guys. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, leave reviews, and share the show. Don't be a hoe.
I like that, dude, Frizella.
You know it.
Yes, sir. Um, Fathers out there, man, like just understand yourself better. Like just piggybacking off of what Jack said. When you fuck up, like tell your kids like where you messed up and then teach them how you're working through it. I think that's the biggest thing is let your children see you learn life as they're learning life too. Because now they can look at you as just more than dad. Like dad is a teacher, dad has his own philosophy about himself. Like that, like I want to be more like that. I want to be a lot more open. Like that's courageous for you to be able to open yourself and be vulnerable with your children in a sense while being able to have authority over, the protection of their life and stuff. Also remember that you are the provider and protector of the home. So you have to understand in order to be that, like I have to be more authentic with myself. And that involves the little versions of you that you've created as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think just kind of taking what you guys have both said. One, I love the after action review, whether it be just solo where you take time and review the day. Maybe you take some notes, you journal, like this happened today. This didn't go the way that I wanted it. 3 things that I would change, like maybe something like that. Maybe you do it with your spouse. However you get it done, I think there's definitely a necessity to reflect because you're not going to be perfect, right? And that's the reality. But we're striving for being better than we were previously. Not necessarily being perfect, but I just want to be better than I was the day before. And there's no way for me to do that unless I keep an account of how I did. Um, I think as we do that, it is important for us to teach our our methods, right? Like if we solve a problem, our child will see our progress, but they're going to struggle with the process
Mhm.
because we never showed them how we did it, right? Like
Mhm.
they talk about wealth all the time. I can make a ton of money, but if I never show my kids how I made that money, when I die, they're going to blow it all because they have no idea of the process it takes to get there. They see the progress, right? They're loving that they got all the new things, but they don't know what I did to get there. And I think that's important, especially as we're talking about this emotional intelligence, emotional literacy. Yeah, we're doing a better job of it. But if we don't, in turn, now teach our sons and our daughters, then they are just going to go right back to what we did, right? Or where we were before we became enlightened as we are now. So it really, really important that we, we show them the process, that we take the time to review our daily process and refine it to try to be better, a little bit better every day. Not leaps and bounds, just steps here and there, moving in the right direction. I think is extremely important. And again, fellas that are listening, you're on the right track. If you're listening to this, you're already on the right track. Just continue to lean in, and as you learn more, share it with other guys, right? Because you are on your own affecting your household, but you also got to affect your neighborhood, your community, your county, your city, your state. And the way to do that is to share it with another guy, to share it with somebody on social media, to however you do it, right? But make sure to get the word out, because one thing I always say, and the reason that I'm so hard up on this fatherhood stuff is I can do an amazing job in my household, but if I don't help men outside of my household, regardless, my daughters one day are going to have to go out into that world.
Mm.
And if I don't help you become a better father, if I don't say some word that may spark something in you, then when my daughter meets your son, she's got to deal with an asshole like this. I mean, like, and so I'm doing my best selfishly to build up my house on the inside, and I'm asking you to do the same on the outside so that we can have a better world in front of us.
All right. That's the final word. Thank you, Rod. Thank you, Devin. You guys have a great day. We'll see
All
you
right,
later.
later.